Hi, we have Mr. Helge. He's the Global Chief Sustainability Officer of DBS. Welcome to ET Insights interview. Thank you for taking your time.
Thanks for
And
having me.
uh, let me begin by asking you sustainability. What is sustainability, and why are industries across the world, including the banking sector, getting into sustainability?
Okay, sure. So let me first define sustainability the way we look at this.
Right.
So if you think about it, in 2050 or so, we're probably going to have 9 billion people on this planet.
Right.
So sustainability ultimately means to us these 9 billion people live well and they live within planetary boundaries. What does this mean? Live well means a lot of things. It means people have food on the plate. It means people have access to fresh air and water. People have good medical health, they have shelter, and so on and so forth. And living within planetary boundaries means not only the current generation can enjoy all this, but future generations as well. So then the question is, how can we as a bank support ultimately this vision of sustainability to make sure people live well and within planetary boundaries?
Right. When you talk about sustainability framework being incorporated within an industry, say the banking industry, what are the indicators you look at, or how do you decide uh, to approach when you do the
Sure.
incorporation?
Yeah, sure. Let me maybe first say that to us, everything starts with purpose.
Right.
We actually believe purpose and an organization with purpose is of utmost importance. And at DBS, we have developed this beautiful vision, which is to be the best bank for a better world. And the latter part encapsulates our approach to sustainability. And that's actually quite important,
Right.
because it means we have developed a culture in the organization that really nurtures a support for the sustainability agenda. So everything really starts with purpose. Then subsequently, you need to ask yourself, how do I structure my organization?
Right.
So that comes to governance. If you think about my role, the CSO role, many years ago, many organizations wouldn't even have had a CSO role in its organization. At DBS, we've gone quite a few steps further. So we have developed, for example, a board sustainability committee. It's chaired by our group CEO, and there are a couple of other board members on, among others, an academic from Oxford University. And that really shows you how important sustainability to the organization is, i.e. we have direct board oversight over what we do. And as a CSO, I'm there to help Group CEO as well as the senior management team to effectively develop a strategic vision on sustainability, a strategic direction, if you will. So governance also is very, very important, and having dedicated resources to push this. So we have established purpose, we have a strong governance structure in place, and then we ultimately asked ourselves, what are the most material sustainability topics to us? Because every organization is very different. So we are a bank, we're operating in certain markets, so we looked at our shareholders, our customers, our employees, government, regulators, and so on, and developed effectively the most material topics for us. And ultimately, we've developed 3 pillars in sustainability. The first one we call responsible business, responsible banking. That's all about empowering our clients to being more sustainable. For example, supporting our large corporate clients to transition to lower carbon business models by providing advisory and lending services. It also cuts across aspects such as financial inclusion, banking the underbanked, especially in India, also a huge topic for us. The second pillar is what we call responsible business practices. That's more inward looking. How do we conduct ourselves as an organization? So that can be diversity, equity, inclusion. It can be around fairness, transparency. And on the environmental side, we have accomplished carbon neutrality in our own operations at the end of 2022, so last year. And then pillar 3 is what we call impact beyond banking. Here we are supporting social enterprises, think about businesses with a triple bottom line, as well as community causes. So we go directly into the communities and, for example, support digital literacy or financial literacy. And last year, actually, our board approved another 100 million Singapore dollars to really support that as well. So you can see it's very all-encompassing across our entire organization. We are integrating it into everything that we do.
Right, right. Can you talk about some of the key sustainability programs that DBS has ventured into, and how has the success been?
Yeah. Absolutely. So as I just mentioned, we have these three pillars,
Right.
and we are ultimately weaving, if you will, environmental and social matters into the fabric of our business across these three pillars. But I think one thing that I would highlight is our climate agenda. So we have decided that we prioritize climate, firstly because it's very urgent,
Absolutely.
and secondly, it's interlinked with other environmental and socioeconomic matters as well. And last year in September, we published a fairly massive paper, which we called Our Path to Net Zero, which provides great detail around how do we align our lending and financing with net zero. So what does this mean? We're a bank, we're not producing suits or tables or iPads, but we're enabling that with our lending and financing decisions. So what we effectively said is we want to align our lending and financing with net zero emissions that you can attribute back to us.
Right.
And that's a fairly comprehensive approach. And we see this climate agenda as three things. Number one, it's a societal responsibility. We want to protect the communities we operate in against the implications of climate change. Number two, we think it's a risk imperative. The transition to lower carbon business models means that the businesses of our clients will be turned upside down in many cases. So we need to understand the risks on us, on our lending book, on our operations as they arise because of climate change. And the third one, we see it as a business opportunity. No matter what study you look at, the financing needs to transition our entire economies to net zero are very, very significant. There's, for example, the IPCC, a group of scientists ultimately, which says we need an extra $3.5 trillion a year to finance that. And here, of course, as a bank, we come in to support our clients. So it's a massive piece of work on climate. And ultimately, it means that we need to reimagine the way we interact with clients. So rather than talking about the normal financing needs, we're now actually talking strategy to make businesses more resilient.
Right. If you can just elaborate on the Zero Food Waste program which DBS had started. I mean, how has it progressed so far and what is it about?
Yeah. So firstly, we need to acknowledge that food waste is actually a huge global problem. So as I mentioned, we have all these different pillars, but we have established within these pillars a couple of topical areas that we find are very, very important. And food waste is really a very significant issue. So last year, in calendar year 2022, we have effectively supported the avoidance of 140,000 tons of food waste that would have otherwise just gone to waste. So a huge effort around the entire organization around this topic. So great progress. Here specifically in India, we work with quite a number of organizations. For example, S4S, which is an entity that dehydrates food. So food that would normally go to waste is dehydrated and can then later be used, which is a fantastic tool. So really great efforts and progress, and especially also here in India that we made in that area.
In your role, there are a lot of responsibilities that are there, and I mean, it's a no-brainer that if you don't love your job, it's very difficult to carry out these responsibilities. So, if I would ask you, what do you love the most about your role?
Yeah, I come back to what I said at the very beginning. It all starts with purpose.
Right.
I think it's almost a luxury that I'm allowed to spend my entire day, all my energy, on environmental and social matters. Because ultimately there are huge challenges out there. Climate change is real. There are many social issues as well. And having the ability to ultimately grow my sphere of influence by shaping the thinking and the acting of a big organization like DBS to support environmental and social matters is, I think, really a huge luxury. So it's that purpose that's really driving me. But apart from purpose, I actually also believe it's a business case.
Right.
I believe there are great business opportunities arising out of the need of customers to transition and for us to help them. So it's really the combination of these two things that makes this job really fun and meaningful.
Right. One last question. What advice would you give to organizations who are implementing ESG as one of the new strategies in their operations? So anything specific if you would like to talk about?
So whilst it sounds cliche, but again, I come back to purpose.
Yes.
I think an organization really needs to establish its purpose. It's very important, and that ultimately then has an implication on the culture.
Right.
And organizations need to understand what is most material to me, because every organization, depending on what sector it is, has a very different sustainability agenda,
Right.
has different stakeholders, and so on and so forth. So going through the process of identifying what is most relevant to me, how do I allocate my time and
Right.
resources,
Right.
is quite critical. But everything really starts with purpose. And if there are any further questions, we at DBS are very happy to help further.
Right, right. Fantastic, Mr. Elge. Thank you for taking the time and
Excellent.
speaking with us. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks,
you very
much
much.
appreciated.